So, India has implemented several measures to strengthen its defenses against cybercrime and enhance the regulation of virtual assets, which are used for the purpose of money laundering.
So here we can say which all acts would come under play would be Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, and we can say um, another would be the FEMA Act 1999, Foreign Exchange Management Act can be there.
Malls in Dubai are leveraging latest technology to stay ahead. So retailers may have to draw on the strengths of brick and mortar stores, which can no longer just exist as they did. So Dubai malls, they are constantly evolving, and the latest concept, for example, is digital retail, which is basically the physical digital combination. And over here, one can think of click and collect as an example. So and they must leverage technology to understand their consumers as their online counterparts do not do, and they use technology to be agile and cater to their changing tastes. So Dubai malls are an example of this, and they've seen its retail economy grow a steep 14% from 2022.
And we are seeing that rising number of malls in NCR. They've become ghost shopping centers, those which have less than 40% of the retail occupancy. So these are the ghost shopping centers. So we can take learnings from again Dubai Mall and how they are implementing technology. For example, they are using cognitive artificial intelligence to assess and analyze the real-time decisions through the large data sets in order to make informed decisions in a lesser time to beat the competition. So what new changes can be done through this? This is uh, one of the examples.
Stains volatile rupee with near $700 billion forex stockpile. So the Reserve Bank of India's foreign exchange reserves have swelled to almost $700 billion in a move reminiscent of China's accumulation 2 decades ago. So at the same time, the exchange rate has also dropped to record lows of near 84 per dollar without sparking warnings about spiraling import costs and inflation. So, clamping down on volatility and building up a stockpile of foreign exchange holdings to safeguard the economy. So, the strategy has helped attract foreign investment and it has improved the current account deficit. Interventions, they also bear risk and they've been censured by the US Treasury.
So here we can talk about, like it is mentioned, the forex reserves have been used to tame the volatile rupee. So particularly talking about the volatility in exchange rate. So firstly, our foreign exchange reserves have, or it will almost touch $700 billion. So which is going to be again a huge, we can say, achievement. So India follows the managed floating exchange rate system where we are again having the role of market forces also and the role of RBI in determining the exchange rate. So, for example, when we saw that there was, or whenever it happens that there is huge exit by the uh, foreign portfolio investors outside the Indian market, when they exit or there is huge capital outflow, so there is pressure building upon the Indian rupee and Indian rupee depreciates. So in that case, RBI intervenes and it sells dollars in the markets. So that is one way. And when we see that there is a lot of investments into the Indian market, or when there is capital inflow, so it leads to rupee appreciation. So appreciation leads to reduction in our competitiveness of the exports. So in that case, RBI buys the dollar from the market. So this needs to be understood, and that's how RBI has been able to better tame it.
Supreme Court says collegium is not a search committee. So it's discussed it above also. So it basically asked the Attorney General to submit a report on the status of names that were iterated for appointment as judges, but were yet to be cleared by the center. So the CJI has said that the Attorney General has reiterated this request and the bench has agreed to some appointments and the pipeline, and they expect appointments to come in shortly. And so many recommendations are yet to be cleared in this. Over here, CJ just said that collegium is not a search committee. It has certain status in terms of the constitutional fabric. And the search committee makes recommendations, which is the absolute discretion whether to accept uh, or not accept the recommendation. It's asked for the status and the reports on this thing. Supreme Court pulls up CBI on appeal for transfer of cases. So over here, the Supreme Court pulled up the CBI for making scandalous allegations and casting aspersions on the West Bengal judiciary in its plea seeking transfer of cases related to the 2021 post-poll violence outside the state. And the bench has said that allowing the transfer of cases, it would certify that a hostile environment persists in all courts of the state and that they are not functioning as they should. So it is repeatedly averred that there is a hostile environment prevailing in the courts, and states, ASGs, there was no intention to cast aspersions. However, he seeks permission to withdraw, and objections are to be proposed transfer are to be kept open. EBB and flow of water sharing treaties. So this is talking about the Teesta Treaty with Bangladesh. The complexities of transborder river agreements, it requires India to take a calibrated approach as it has to grapple with historical, legal, and political dimensions. So Teesta, it originates in India and it flows into Bangladesh. And it's a 414-kilometer long river which flows through Sikkim and West Bengal before it enters Bangladesh, and it is crucial to supporting nearly 14% of Bangladesh crop production, and almost half a dozen districts of West Bengal are dependent on the waters. So Indo-Bangladesh Joint Rivers Commission, it was established in 1972, and the aim was to ensure the most effective joint effort in maximizing the benefits from common river systems. And in 1984, the commission, it provided for an increase in Bangladesh share based on hydrological data to 37.5% of the Teesta waters. So with over 83% of the river's catchment area in India, the issue of equitable water sharing has been a sensitive one given Bangladesh's propensity to use the China card. Now, India and Bangladesh, they entered into Ganga Water Sharing Treaty in 1996, and which was due for renewal in 2026. So this was one of the milestones in India-Bangladesh ties. And talking about the equitable distribution of transboundary rivers, it's governed by the international law, particularly the Helsinki Rules of 1966 and the 1997 UN Convention on Non-Navigational Uses of International Water Courses. So these rules and conventions, they advocate for equitable and reasonable utilization of shared rivers. And under the international law, India is bounded by the principle of equitable and reasonable uses, as well as the obligation not to cause significant harm to Bangladesh. So India must consider its own development needs, especially with hydroelectric projects in Sikkim and West Bengal. So Bangladesh, it has sought to address potential ecological damage that may be caused by such projects. And so with the water sharing issue, it must also consider the political and social landscape there, considering the recent political turmoil, including attacks on the minority Hindu community. So rights violations and growing tension in Bangladesh should be addressed first before embarking on renewed treaties. And the Teesta water dispute is not just a bilateral issue; it has significant regional complications as well. So India as a regional leader and democratic powerhouse, it must leverage its position to ensure Bangladesh upholds basic human rights standards. And India should also learn from its experiences with Indus Water Treaty, and it should reassess the negotiations of treaties governing the Ganga or Teesta rivers. So the negotiation of Indus water sharing treaties is not only an environmental and economic issue, but it's deeply rooted in the political and security dynamics of South Asia. Take up this article.
So UK debt hits 100% of the GDP in blow to reefs. So we have seen that this graph is firstly important to understand how their debt as a percentage of GDP has changed. So you can see it was spiking during the World War One and World War Two years and gradually declined. Then we have 2008 and global financial crisis and again COVID-19 in 2020, which led to increasing of this. So you can see that it even touched 250% of the GDP during World War Two. So 1939 to 1945 period. So this becomes challenging again. This is the first time in recent history, particularly, and another large budget deficit last month. So the lessons for India can be the mistakes that were done by UK. They have spent excessively on the welfare, the free measures particularly, and even current account deficit that is also widening. So everything is just, we can say, going negative in terms of the macroeconomic indicators which are used, which are the high frequency indicators in order to assess the performance or the direction of GDP growth. So that is indicating that pressure is building up, and let's see how this is going to be dealt with. So debt is increasing, current account deficit is soared, and debt to GDP ratio that would have also gone up massively. So it's very important to balance the expenditure being done by the public sector, particularly when we're talking about the budget formulation. So in India, as we talk about balance between capital expenditure and the revenue expenditure, and also focusing simultaneously upon increasing the revenue, particularly the tax revenue of the government.
Songs have changed from the hills. So this talks about the zero festivals in Mizoram. So Silai is a little used Mizo word for beautiful, unattainable women, and the title on the biggest hits. So Silai begins with gentle beats of cymbals and is followed by electric guitar strings, which is reminiscent of the 1980s alternative rock. So there's introverted, enigmatic artist who wears a painted mask and uses old world Mizo vocabulary in his lyrics. So Zero festivals held in the scenic Zero valleys of Arunachal Pradesh. The festival platforms the diversities of the region's indigenous music alongside indie talent from India and abroad. And with electronic dance music festival Sunburn was launched in Goa in 2007. The multi-genre music festival NH7, which was started in Pune in 2010, and the Blue Frog, they were the busiest live gig venue in Mumbai of 2000s, and the immense diversity of the Northeast music had little space. So Zero Festivals first started in 2012 with 150 attendees, and it has grown to more than 12,000 in 2023. So since its beginning, it has partnered with British Council, Embassy of Israel, and Institute Francis to bring in global acts. And this year, the international performers, they include electronic music group Bottle Smokers from Indonesia and rock group Hollow Ship from Sweden. So each state, they're influenced by religious and cultural infinities. So Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram, they've gifted musicians with strong vocals because they've been singing in the church for generations. And so while Zero Festival has grown, it isn't necessarily true that the music scene in the region has expanded too. So it's only limited to small circles within the community. That's what this was mostly about in the article. The next article talks about Oil India to start production from Gabon next fiscal. So, Straight Run Oil India Limited, it plans to start oil production from its Gabon block in the next financial year with the construction of wells to be completed over the next few months. So it is expected to operationalize next fiscal, and their company will drill all the four planned wells by the end of financial year 25. Apart from that, the project has been impacted by regulatory delays in the COVID pandemic, and the development assumes significance given the setback which it suffered by the state-run firms, including oil in their equity energy asset overseas. So the latest cases in point being India's inordinate wait for liquefied natural gas supplies from the $20 billion Mozambique project getting longer. So the consortium, it was allocated the blocks for exploration 2006, and the project has been impacted due to its interior location, regulatory delays, and the COVID pandemic. So now it's set to be completed by financial year 25.
The location of Gabon becomes important. So it is located on the western coast of Africa and bordered by Cameroon and Republic of the Congo. And even equator is passing through Gabon. Also, it is sharing border with Equatorial Guinea.
So this was the last article. Thank you everyone for joining. We can end over here.